Our bone is composed of the endosteum and the periosteum. So the endosteum is the lining of the inner cortex, and the periosteum is the lining of the bone circumference. The endosteum basically has lots of osteoclasts, which are basically bone phagocytes that eat up the mature bones. And the periosteum has lots of osteoblasts, which are bone cells that increases synthesis of new bone tissue. They are the synthesizers of bone tissue. So in a normal human being, the endosteum and the periosteum has to work in balance. So the resorptive function of the endosteum, as in the osteoclastic activity, has to be in balance with the ossification or the periosteal activity. This whole thing is called remodeling. Our bones are constantly being resorbed and reformed, resorbed from the center and being reformed at the circumference, at the perimeter. So, however, there is a difference in genders, and we'll get to that in a while. Now we know it's like an accepted fact that postmenopausal women have a higher chance of developing osteoporosis and thus fractures than men of the same age. This is a bit um, this is a bit hard to understand when you realize that both men and women of the same age, let's say above 60, have an estrogen level that is very, very similar. Postmenopausal women have estrogen levels that are less than 30 picogram per milliliters, and old men who are of the same age have roughly about 10 to 40. So the difference in the estrogen levels between the two genders cannot possibly explain why is it that postmenopausal women have a higher chance of getting osteoporosis, because what we would think is, following that line of reasoning, that women have higher chances of getting osteoporosis, we would assume that women have much lower estrogen, or there's a much bigger disparity in the hormonal levels. But that is not the case. So, what is really happening? Estrogen throughout the woman's life has been sort of prepping her bones to increase resorption and reduce ossification. What I mean is, um, there is something called periosteal. Oh, where's my periosteal apposition? Periosteal apposition is when the bone grows. Oh goodness, I can't see it. Bone grows in thickness as opposed to length. So the bone stops growing in length at puberty, or at the end of puberty. So, and throughout the adult life, it's usually this growth. So that's why they say that with increase in physical activity such as hiking, running, jogging, weightlifting, anti-gravitational activities, you would actually promote the bone thickness, and therefore you get healthy bones when you're older. And however, in women, the estrogen actually prevents periosteal apposition, or in a way, it reduces the degree to which this occurs. Estrogen functions to reduce periosteal apposition for reasons that I am not yet aware, and therefore, when the woman has reached an advanced age, let's say she's now 60 or beyond, and she's basically menopausal, her bone thickness is much lesser compared to men. So this would be a postmenopausal woman's bone, and this would be an older man, a man of the same age. his bone. So the difference in diameter is what causes or increases the chances of a woman getting osteoporosis. So hormone replacement therapy is usually given to women to increase osteoblastic or rather reduce osteoclastic activity. Osteoclastic activity being the resorptive function of the bone. So when this is reduced, it won't the in an old woman, the thickness of the bone at least will not decline further. The least you could do is you can stop the resorption here and therefore maintain the thickness of the bone. Otherwise, the woman who is postmenopausal would continue having resorption, and the bone would continue getting thin, would continue to get thin and much thinner, and she would experience risk of fractures. So that's what it is like.